Good morning and welcome to the annual meeting of the Pickleball Club. More. I have to raise my hands. Okay. First, I'd like to welcome our guests. We have a table of guests here from the tennis club. They're here not to attend our whole meeting, but they're here to listen to the presentation that we're going to start the meeting with. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our speaker. She is Elise Brown. She is a community education specialist. She's a firefighter, and she's an EMT with the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. She's going to speak today about life safety topics with a special emphasis on public access to defibrillators program called PAD, the importance of CPR and AED training, and the need for quick access to AEDs. So having said that, let me introduce to you Elise Brown.
Good morning. If I sit, no one will be able to see me. If I stand, that's questionable as well. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, that was much better. I know you're drinking coffee because I see it. So thank you for having me. I welcome the invitation, any opportunity that I get on behalf of Palm Beach County Fire Rescue to talk about life safety topics and the different outreach presentations that we offer in the communities. So let me ask you this. If each and every one of you could learn a life-saving skill in 2 hours or less, that could make the difference between life or death in someone that you know or that you love, would you want to learn this skill?
Yes.
Okay. What if I told you that in your daily outings and routines and your daily errand runs, just about everywhere you go in the public these days, there is an essential life-saving device that could actually mean the difference between life or death that you would have access to and be able to utilize to make the difference in someone's outcome if they were to suffer a cardiac arrest? Would you want to know where they are and how to use them?
Yes.
Okay. What if I told you it was as easy as 3 steps to learn it? Even better, right?
Right.
So what I'm referring to is the AED. And what that stands for, it's an acronym for automatic or automated external defibrillator. It works in conjunction with CPR. So CPR, many of you probably know about the trend where we kind of did away with ventilations and it's compressions only, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So ventilations didn't truly go away. There's still circumstances when it is very helpful, when it's primarily a respiratory emergency. And that's usually with infants and children, right? And why do you think that is? Why do you think that it would be a respiratory situation or emergency and not cardiac? They might swallow something because of their age. They learn about their environment. One of the ways they learn about it is by putting things in their mouth. So usually it's an airway blockage or obstruction, or it's a drowning incident. Not to discount the statistics, the high number of statistics, as a matter of fact, of adult drownings, because here in Palm Beach County, you probably don't realize, we actually do have a high adult rate of drownings. And why is that? We're old enough, we know how to swim, right? Who needs a buddy? But the problem is in a lot of communities, you go and you do your laps and you go for a swim. Why bring the wallet? We're not driving. We're probably going to walk. We don't need any ID and we don't need a buddy because we're pretty skilled at swimming. But what happens is oftentimes it's a medical emergency when someone's swimming. They like to go early before there's a crowd or a rush. They don't bring ID with them because they don't need it and don't want it to get lost. So unfortunately, there's a bad outcome and we don't know who to contact. And there's a delay in getting us because there's no one there to witness the emergency to get the individual's help. So that in and of itself is a whole nother emergency and situation that we need to address. But quite frankly, just swimming still with a buddy and bringing your identification can mean the difference between life and death. What I want to focus on is cardiac emergencies. Now, why do you think hands-only CPR is so essential for teenagers and adults? Because truly, that is what we utilize hands-only CPR for if you just don't know how to do CPR. It's a pretty easy skill, right, to push on someone's chest. Why do you think teens and adults really would benefit from just compressions? Different than children and infants. Are we sticking things in our mouth? Like that we don't know about? We might take big mouthfuls, right? But as we age and we get more active, right, in sporting events and sporting activities with the teenagers, there has been incidents where teens and older teens and young adults have suffered from cardiac emergencies. And as we age in our medical history, it changes or maybe even declines. Older adults, right? It's usually a cardiac situation. So what's going to benefit if someone suffers a cardiac arrest is taking the place of their heart and beating it for them, right? But oftentimes people mistake a heart attack with a cardiac arrest, and the biggest difference I think I can really relate to you all and explain between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. With a heart attack, how many of you have either witnessed this or maybe even unfortunately experienced, right? Are you conscious?
Yes.
You're conscious, okay? You can still get help. You can prevent further heart damage. You can get intervention. When there's a cardiac arrest, when someone collapses, are they conscious? No. That is the biggest difference. That's a situation where the heart is absolutely stopped, all the electrical activity, or it is quivering in a way where it's not beating efficiently or effectively for the person. That's when hands-only CPR, compressions taking the place of their heart. Well, first it's 911, right? Giving them compressions and then getting a defibrillator on them and starting to utilize it. Now in the public, there's defibrillators everywhere. When a teen or an adult suddenly collapses, you probably have witnessed or heard or even seen on the news what's called the bystander phenomenon. I didn't even know that was a title or a thing or a word. My son actually taught me that in one of his life skills classes in high school. What do you think the bystander phenomenon is when there's an emergency or situation, there's a bunch of people standing around? What do you think happens? No, they don't do anything.
They watch.
Let someone else do it. They watch. I think you're calling for help. You think it's a bunch of nothingness, right?
They're in shock. They're in
Or
shock.
you're in
They
shock,
just watch.
right?
Just watch.
They watch. Or unfortunately maybe get their phones out and let the phone do the watching and delay getting
Oh,
help.
they call 911.
They might call 911, but why would you not physically do something if someone
You're not
collapses?
sure what to do.
Afraid of getting sued.
You're afraid of getting sued, litigation. You're not sure what to do. You might make it worse. Here
Right.
in the state of Florida, we have the Good Samaritan law. How many of you have heard of that?
Yes.
Good Samaritan law here in the state of Florida. It covers you all as citizens. It covers first responders, emergency workers, and healthcare providers. And essentially what that is, and what that means, is that if you help someone to the level of your training and with good intent, you should not be held liable. You should not be subject to.
You cannot be held. Cannot be held.
You can be
Cannot.
sued,
You cannot be held liable.
but you should not be held liable. Correct.
Cannot be held liable.
I've heard some cases.
You're
but
saying
yes.
should not.
You should not, because I can't tell you 100% of the fact when it comes to a court
Could you
and
tell us when
jury
we
and other
have a
people.
duty? Could you tell us which of us have a duty to help, and that we're breaking a law and we're going to be arrested if we don't help? Which
If
five-
you do not
which
call
five of us?
911 and get help, but we cannot force you to intervene when it comes to concerns about your own safety. Now,
What about-
watching
what
and
about
not
the
doing
five
anything,
classes
calling
of
for help.
people that have a duty.
I'm sorry.
The 5 classes of people that have a duty to help.
Do you want to speak about it? Because
No, I
I'm
wanted to
not.
know if you know, if you're familiar.
I
with it.
am not
Oh,
familiar with that, and I
All right,
can't
thank
speak
you.
about that. But you're welcome to do it.
All right.
Would you like to?
No,
Okay. I don't know.
it's not part of the synopsis.
I do not know that scenario. I will be quite honest. Okay.
We'll talk
So I
about it.
have heard of situations where people have been taken to court and there's not been great outcomes. I don't know the circumstances of the state that happened in. But what I'm telling you all is that here in the state of Florida, you are protected because if you want to help, whether you're just a citizen or a good bystander, or you're an emergency responder, maybe even not on duty, or a healthcare provider on duty, okay, with the good intent, with the level of your training, you are going to be protected, okay? You'll have the law on your side. So that should not be a reason to not help. Thinking you're gonna make the situation worse, I can understand that that's a concern also, and not knowing what to do. This is why when someone, a teenager, an adult suddenly collapses, that it is super simple. If you cannot wake them up, That's an emergency, right? When there's an emergency, we get help. So we call who? 911. Doesn't matter if your area code is different than 561. It doesn't matter. If you have a different area code right now and you call 911 from right here, it makes no difference at all because it pings off of the local cell towers. So that is not a concern. But knowing the location of where you are and giving us information is important. For example, how many of you know the physical address here for this clubhouse in Century Village? Some of you might, right? So if you don't know the physical numerical address, giving us the most words and details as possible is going to help us get to you quicker, okay? We're going to ask you, is the person awake? Can you wake them? If you say no, our next question is going to be, are they breathing normally? Is it safe to say we all know what normal breathing is? Yes. If someone's making snoring sounds on the ground and they're not waking up or they're gasping breaths, is that normal breathing? No, it is not. So then we're going to tell you go. Get them on the ground if you can and push hard and fast on the center of the chest. And then we're going to ask, because you're in public, is there an AED available? Can you all tell me, is there an AED available here in the clubhouse? Yes. How many of you say yes? How many of you don't know? Okay. There is. Those of you that know, how many of them are there? Do you know?
At least 2, I think.
At least 2. How many of you think 1? How many of you think 2? How many of you think 3? Some of you think 4. Okay, so Dan and I looked around. There's 3, right? And they're everywhere else in public. The intent of having defibrillators here on site is because it works in conjunction with CPR. Your hands replace the heart with the compressions. But what the defibrillator does is if it's a shockable rhythm when the person's in cardiac arrest, if it's shockable, okay, the intent is for the defibrillator to shock the heart, to stop the electricity dysfunction, to allow it to restart in an organized electrical function. Not every rhythm's shockable. It won't help in every outcome, but it is a better chance than nothing, right? And you're not going to know, the machine's going to know. And there's only 2 shockable rhythms, the machine's going to know. You only need to know 3 things with the defibrillator. The first question is, and I'll answer your question, ma'am. Know where it what? Is, right? Know where it is. There's one by the ticket box. There is one in the fitness center. And the other one is upstairs above the ticket office in that common area, okay? That's your 3. So know where it is. The next thing is going to be, as you're bringing it back, and you get it to whoever is doing the compressions and the person, the victim, patient, is you have to turn it on, right? Button's super easy. We can figure out remotes and cell phones and technology, right? Pretty universal. If it doesn't say on or off, the button's going to look very similar. So know where it is, turn it, and do what it
Says.
That's it. That is literally it. Do what it says. Having defibrillators in public places helps reduce liability, because what happens is these organizations know that by having this life-saving tool available for the public to use, just like a fire extinguisher, for the public to use in conjunction with 911 and hands-only CPR compressions to help beat the heart for that person, it helps reduce liability because it is available. You all tried. You had this tool. You had this resource to be able to try to have a better outcome for this person. When someone collapses due to cardiac arrest, it is estimated that that individual has about a 10-minute oxygen reserve in their vital organs and their lungs. If you immediately call 911 and start pushing hard and fast on the center of their chest, you're circulating the oxygenated blood. You are their heart. There's not much of a hiccup in between. As you're doing compressions, you're actually drawing in some oxygen. So you're sustaining viability to the organs and the brain just by being their heart. And what the AED does is exactly as I explained. If it's a shockable rhythm and it's electricity malfunction and it's shockable, it will stop that malfunction, shock it, allow it to restart in an organized rhythm, and then you'll pick right back up with the compressions. And then in another 2 minutes, that cycle repeats, and then we get here. What's the estimated response time do you think Palm Beach County Fire Rescue has? You guys are like, we're right down the street from you, so. What do you, if you had to guess?
8 minutes.
8 minutes, 3 minutes, you know, it varies. Even though we're right here, a block or two away, doesn't mean when you call 911, we're gonna be in quarters. We might be at another emergency, which means you have to get the next closest station or the next closest station, right? So our average response time is 6.5 minutes. So research has also shown that for about every minute where CPR compressions are delayed, that is equivalent to about a 10% decrease in chance of survival. So you take the bystander phenomenon, right? Everybody's looking around. Yes, you got us en route. That's great. You take the 6.5 minute response time. If no one puts the hands on the person's chest, and the AED is not applied to this person and turned on, and you don't do what it says, they are now at a 60 to 70% chance likelihood of morbidity. No, not a good outcome. But with you, when you intervene within the first minute and a half, that person's chances are about 85-90%, hopefully of a good outcome. Our whole intent is return of spontaneous circulation by all the interventions the public does and bystanders do. In addition to the defibrillator, because it works in conjunction, the hands beat for the heart, but the electricity helps, or the AED helps with the electricity. You can't do that with your hands, only the machine can, okay? They work together. So when a teen or an adult suddenly collapse, literally 2 steps. They're not waking up, you call 911, and you push hard and fast on the center of the chest. And then all the talking in between, hopefully you stay calm. You're able to communicate with the dispatcher will coach you. You have many resources in the room, sending people out to the street to flag us in, sending somebody else, Dan, go get the AED and come back, turn it, do what it
Says.
Yes, and I'll tell you right now, the electrodes, they're stickers, right? When you try to put a Band-Aid or a sticker on someone, you have to take what off of the back? The paper, right, to make it stick. It's not gonna stick to hairy skin and it's not gonna stick to sweaty skin. So there's other little things that come with the AED. You know, there's a little towel, there's a razor to do a quick, hopefully non-creative shave job if the person has, you know, excessive body hair. But all the tools are there. Yes, ma'am?
The ticket box is often closed. The defibrillator should actually be at the office, like the front desk.
Okay, so she had said, this nice young lady had stated that the ticket, I don't like she, that was very disrespectful, I apologize. But I don't know your name. So, the nice young lady in the back had mentioned the ticket office is often closed. And from my understanding, the intent here with the defibrillators is they're only for staff to utilize. But the AEDs are not inside the ticket office, they're on the wall outside the ticket office, like in the center of this back wall. So they are accessible to you, but the intent, my understanding from even speaking with the representative from the management company, is that they're for security staff and staff only. I don't know what they've put in writing as far as policy goes and your ability to utilize them, but they are accessible.
So if you actually took it, even though it was for staff, you wouldn't get in trouble because of Good Samaritan Act?
You should not, no. I don't know what the management company is going to want to do. I have no control over legal outcomes, but yes, as a bystander, it is accessible just like the fire extinguisher. You have the ability to utilize it. They should want you to utilize it. You can save someone's life on their property. It is available. And it doesn't say you cannot use it, does it? It doesn't have warnings and everything else slashed all over. It does not. I can tell you that right now because Dan and I looked at all of them. It does not. But you are covered by the Good Samaritan law. And this gentleman might explain later the different 5 classes. I don't know what they are. With the intent to help to the best of your ability and knowledge. We want to encourage people to help other people until we can get there. You all are the link.
But, I mean, maybe the staff is trained on AED too, so maybe it's better if they help.
Can you repeat the questions?
She is, I'm sorry. The comment was made that maybe you all should leave it up to the staff because they're better trained to utilize it. I just trained you in 3 steps, right? I just trained you in 3 steps. Now, what I will tell you is I'm going to highly encourage you to invite us back to come teach you so you can learn the skills hands-on. So you start developing the muscle memory with the compressions and utilizing the AED, because they all look a little bit different. And I can tell you we actually have these AEDs here now in a more ready state. Dan can explain that later, what that means, but it's now more ready for you all to utilize. The way they were set up before, not so much, but do not rely on the staff. You as a bystander and a good Samaritan, it is there, it is available to utilize. Utilize it, please, but call us first. Yes, ma'am.
I think something I didn't understand originally was you cannot use the AED on someone that is breathing. You can't make it worse.
You cannot make it. Okay, so the AED is not going to shock someone if it's not a shockable rhythm. So because being able to detect someone, if you're not trained, and even if you are trained, normal breathing and pulse can be a little bit tricky. And because when someone is suffering a cardiac arrest, there are other movements such as, how many of you have ever witnessed a cardiac arrest? Not a heart attack, but an actual cardiac arrest. Okay, then you all can vouch for me and back me up. It is very traumatic to witness. I witnessed my father suffer from it, and I watched my mom die from heart failure and lupus. So it's very traumatic. So when someone suffers a cardiac arrest, you may not exactly know why they have collapsed, right? Sometimes their body tightens up and makes jerking movements. It may look a little similar to seizures, or it's the only thing you can relate it to. If they don't have a history of seizures, you treat it like a cardiac arrest. I can tell you right now, giving compressions on someone who's not waking up is not going to hurt them anymore, okay? Also, a sign of cardiac arrest is deep gasps inward. Sometimes the eyes are still open, or it's snoring sounds. It's not normal breathing. That's why we literally have a no-go protocol. Obviously, the only way for you to establish if you need help or it's an emergency when someone is on the floor or the ground or even in furniture and they're not waking up is you try to wake them up, right? If you've ever taken a CPR class, other than seeing safety, you have to see if the person wakes up. If they're not waking up, we go to the next step, which is calling us. We kind of go back to the beginning again. Is the person awake? Can you wake them? Now, depending on your relationship and the level of caring you have with this person, it's going to mean the difference between a gentle kind of shug and maybe a more violent. It just depends. That was supposed to be funny, sorry. But nonetheless, you establish if the person wakes up, right? You say no to us. We go to the next question. Are they breathing normally? Okay? If you've taken CPR, you know how to do this. If you haven't, it's as simple as putting your face near their face. Use your senses. Look for the chest and belly to rise and fall. Listen for breath sounds. Feel for breath on your face. Not normal breathing, it's go. Get them on the floor, on the ground, lift or remove the shirt, and push hard and fast on the center of the chest. Where is that? It's the breastbone. It's the sternum. With the heel of your hand. Put the heel of your hand down on their breastbone, put the other hand on top, and you push hard and fast, 100 to 120 beats per minute, basically to the pace of Staying Alive with the ha-ha-ha, or Baby Shark. It just depends on your music preference, okay? But nonetheless, the dispatcher will help you keep your pace. It's very tiring, it's very exhausting, but you are their heart for them. Giving them breaths doesn't help when the engine's not working, right? Because there's no engine to work to push it all around. So literally, if you were to stop to give breaths, and with conventional CPR, you actually regress all the progress you've made with the compressions. Through our medical director, and our message to you all is we want minimal interruptions. Good quality compressions, full recoil, no bouncing, like you do it like you mean it. You crush that chest. Everyone show me about 2 inches with your fingers. Go a little bit higher than that. That is literally how deep you need to push down on the breastbone with the heel of your hand. It's very hard. You gotta think kind of crush. That's how hard you have to push to squeeze and make a difference with that heart. You wanna push all the way down, squeeze the blood out, you lift up, let the blood come back in, and you just keep doing it repeatedly. You are circulating the oxygenated blood. You are sustaining them until the AED gets there. If you don't have an AED in your home, that's okay. The best thing that you can do is continue doing compressions and stay calm and communicate with us. Yes, ma'am.
If you're in your condo, and I'm way over in Fanchina, the Turnpike, and I'm alone,
Yes.
I guess I would start doing compressions, and maybe I'd run and try to find a neighbor, or try to phone, or what?
Okay, so good question. So if you live alone, you're in a building far away, you're by yourself, and I'm guessing this is for someone else, because you can't do it on yourself.
That's what she said.
On another person,
Yeah.
right? So maybe you have a well check daily thing you have with the neighbor, you haven't heard from your neighbor all day, and you get concerned, you go inside kind of scenario?
Or say your husband just has a heart attack.
Heart attack?
Not
They're,
heart attack.
okay, they're conscious.
Yeah, and you're alone. You can't find any neighbors. You're in your condo by yourself with your husband on the floor.
Okay, you're by yourself, this is your husband that's collapsed. What do? So everyone has a phone here, yes? Okay, everyone has a phone? Is it safe to say? Oh goodness, you sound like children. I'm sorry, the battery's dead, and then it's raining, and then the truck has a flat tire, but you haven't eaten, and then you're really tired, and then somebody calls in sick, and then, sorry, it's cute, but okay, so forgive me. And it snowed in Florida for the first time in I don't know how many years, because it happened.
77 was the last time.
There you go. I knew someone would know this answer. The best thing that you can do is you use your phone. If you have a wireless cell phone, you would use the speaker function, because then you have two hands to be able to get the person on the floor, do the compression. If you don't have a phone, say the battery is dead, you don't know where it is. Personal experience, this actually, in all seriousness, because my husband passed away as well. So I could not find my phone, but he worked for fire rescue, he was a mechanic, I had his radio, and I pushed the panic buttons. That's how I had to do it, but I also yelled and screamed because it was outside. But using your voice may be the second best thing. If you have to, you knock on a neighbor's and you yell help and you tell them to call 911, a couple of neighbors' doors. Hopefully you hear a voice back and create enough commotion that you can go back and do the compressions. They come out to see what's happening. You do what you can. You do what you can. You use the resources you have. But right now you want to start pre-thinking what your plan of action would be. Keeping your cell phone always with you, even when you get up to go to the bathroom. In case you fall or something, you have that ability to call for help. If you have a cordless phone, stick that in your pocket. Those have speaker functions also. You do the best that you can with what you have. But you want to get 911 started. We're part of that chain of survival and that link, not to mention you. And we're going to guide you through the rest. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not clear about if a defibrillator could be hurtful if you're making the wrong choice between cardiac arrest and a heart attack.
Okay, so to clarify, there was a little confusion and concern between a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. So the biggest difference with a heart attack, the person's awake. They're experiencing some symptoms of severe discomfort. May just be jaw pain. That can happen in men or women. That's not a normal, yes? Everyone here, is it safe to say you know what your normal is? You know what your normal is. Everybody's felt nausea before, right? You get sick, you ate something bad, but you put nausea with severe chest pain, then maybe not reflux, or severe shoulder or back pain or arm pain in one or both arms, and then maybe shortness of breath, discoloration. You don't feel right. Something is definitely off. You have to listen to your body. That is a 911 situation.
But not a defibrillator.
No, 911. Cardiac arrest, the person collapses, you cannot wake them up. That is a defibrillator situation. The beauty of that is, after you call 911 and we help guide you through the steps of what to do, if there is an AED available, we're gonna, and it's close by, and you can send someone to get it verbally, go get the AED, Dan, and come back. That will work in conjunction with cardiac arrest, but the machine has to be turned on. Remember, that's the second step. The machine, once it is turned on, is gonna wanna analyze the person's electrical rhythm within their heart to see if it's shockable. You don't touch the person while this is happening. The machine tells you don't touch. Now, if it's shockable, the machine's gonna say don't touch. and it's gonna say charging, and then it's gonna tell you the next step, which is to push the button that's blinking to charge the person. This is an automated one. It tells you what to do. Automatic, once you turn it on and put the pads on, you don't push any buttons, you just listen to the directions. And both cases you do CPR. It's a machine. The machine is designed to operate with its intent to determine if it's a shockable rhythm and to shock. And then every 2 minutes, it's gonna keep running, analyze, and go through the same cycle. You're in between giving compressions. Does that help?
Will it not work if you're not supposed to be using it?
Correct. The machine is not going to shock the person, and if it is not shock, you cannot make a mistake with the machine. You just do what the machine says. If there's people making noise, you tell them to hush down so you can listen to the directions. You cannot make a mistake. You can't shock the person, the machine won't let you. Right? The machine will not let you if it's not shockable. If it's telling you to shock, you gotta push the button. And it's gonna keep repeating it loudly to do that. So the machine takes over, you just follow the directions. Okay? Yes?
Yeah, is there a member of management here today?
The management was invited. Ouch.
Okay, I'm sorry.
The site administrator was invited, and the chairman of the M&O committee was invited. They both responded, and they both declined.
Really?
Ooh.
How do we get him? I really thought it was, I play tennis, I play pickleball in Illinois too. But I thought the purpose was to get defibrillators out by the tennis and pickleball courts.
It is.
So that people, so if they're sticking their head in their stand, how do we do that? I mean, I think CPR is something, and defibrillator use is something that everybody here would like to do, and would probably learn to do if you gave a course in here and I have people I'd like to work on, but
Once again, sir, the machine won't shock if it's not shockable, so you can't do that.
but I mean, seriously, how do we get? I mean, I thought that was one of the main purposes. Wasn't really using the equipment, is getting it out where we're
We're
using
buying
it.
our own, we're buying our own.
Did you all hear in the back? Did everybody hear?
I think one of the best outcomes that could come from this meeting are twofold. One is we will have a documentation of this presentation that'll be available. We'll make it available on a couple different Facebook sites. It's being live streamed right now. Two is that I believe it's our intent to engage Palm Beach County to do a lot of training for us. And they're willing to do that. Before you leave, I hope we'll have a sign-up sheet available where you can indicate your interest in attending a class in the very near future. And the third is to build some, to educate the lay people like Cobrua and M&O and the professional managers of Sen West to purchase AEDs and have them placed, excuse me, in appropriate locations. We've raised money to buy our own. However, it would not be in Sen West's interest not to own the machine, because under Florida law, the owner of the property where the device is used is not protected by the Good Samaritan law, but the owner of the device is. So for Sen West to reduce their own liability, it's in their interest to own the device. They'd be then covered under the Good Samaritan law in Florida.
How much are they?
Under $1,000. If you go for an installation, and we would have to rely on Palm Beach County to help us design, or the manufacturer of the sales, to help us design a location and how it would be done, cabinetry and whatever. They don't require power. They don't require external power. That would be a good next step. Have them at the pickleball courts, have them at the tennis locations, and frankly, in my opinion, there should be one at every outdoor pool. including the clubhouse.
You can't leave them outside, someone will steal them. You have to bring them with the balls. You bring them with the balls, it's part of the club, and you bring them there. If you leave them outside, they're gonna be stolen in one day. They can,
Well,
It's not very important.
outdoors,
Yes, it really isn't.
Nobody steals it.
It really is not.
but what you're suggesting is certainly a good alternative to that.
why not have it,
That
you're
we
bringing the
would-
balls, why
that
not
we
bring it with
would-
the
that
balls?
perhaps they could be kept at the security desk in this building. When you come out in the morning, a designated person picks it up, it's available through the day, and then it's returned.
Someone may be jogging down the road and he, by the tennis courts, I mean, you want him there regardless.
Well, we've got bridges to cross before we get to this point. So the important thing here is that we build some enthusiasm to be trained, and then help convince management here, both lay and professional, to support our efforts. They require regular maintenance, meaning annual or, right.
So like, for example, the electrodes, the pads, there is maintenance, and that there is liability with maintenance, because whoever owns the device has to ensure that it's functioning, just like all the other life safety features you have in the sprinkler system, the fire alarm system, fire extinguishers being serviced. So there is some liability in that aspect, but it's supposed to help reduce liability at the same time, because you have this life-saving device that can help, right? To have a better outcome. That's the whole intent. Now, the electrodes, they have to be replaced because they do expire. Batteries have to be replaced. It has to be registered in case there's a recall on any part of the device or the components of the device. But it does have to be maintained, and there is responsibility with that. And the owner of the device and the property, wherever that, I don't know if there's a true disconnect or not, but it has to be maintained. I'll tell you, they did swap out the electrodes. Those are new electrodes, so those are not expired. So they are being attended to. I think, quite honestly, if we could potentially get the decision makers in the same room, in kind of a non-threatening, non-finger pointing type of setting, to maybe just educate them a little bit better, that it might open the door a little bit easier with some dialogue. And I'll tell you, last year I had heard from Dan. I also heard from the representative of the management company as well as to what their stance was. But I think there needs to be a little bit more education and information shared with them, just all around, like just the totality of what this picture looks like if there is an incident here at Century Village. And Dan knows what I'm talking about. He can shed a little bit of light on policies and procedures. But at the end of the day, if someone collapses here on the property and you have access to the AED that are accessible here, the first floor, second floor common area, and in the fitness center, and you know how to utilize it, and you call us first, and someone's giving compressions, and you turn it on, and you do what it says, you are helping. You are helping that person have a better outcome than if nothing was done at all. You are the Good Samaritan, and that is our goal, to encourage bystander interventions. There's even apps on the phone called Pulse Point. If someone has a cardiac arrest or CPR is needed in the area, you push a button, it activates other people in the area who know how to utilize AEDs and do compressions. They're like mini bystander first responders. It actually activates like at a closer level help. So there are resources, and you all are one of them. So I think we just need to kind of get a little bit more information shared. Yes.
You spoke on compression, of the distance of the compression, but I didn't recall you talking about the frequency. Now, there used to be a reference to a Bee Gees song appropriately titled "Staying Alive," that you're supposed to do the compression to that up-tempo beat. Can you talk about that?
Do y'all want to answer the question?
Staying alive.
Staying alive, 100 to 120 compressions a minute. Staying alive is good metronome. It's the ha 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 baby shark. Now there is another one, but it's pretty morbid. It's called Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. I'm just saying, it is the same beat, probably not on the top 10 list, and I will advise you, if you're doing compressions on someone, probably not something to sing out loud.
No.
But in all seriousness, that it is the same beat. But yes, you stay safe with the Bee Gees. Baby Shark as well, if that's your thing. There's a whole list of songs that cater, and that are more appealing to the younger generations as well. But it's 120 compressions a minute, 110 is the sweet spot. How many seconds are in a minute?
60.
So you're almost working double time. Going too slow, less than 100, and too fast, more than 120 is not good. That's why we use this song for our metronome, because we want maximum cardiac output. We want to push the blood out to all the vital organs and the brain, and we want it to come back in. Yes?
Are the security people, the 100 of them who are around here keeping us out, trained in CPR and use of the defibrillators?
I do not know. There has been training. I do not know how many or who exactly. I know that there's a lot of their hierarchy. They lean a lot on their security supervisors. There's
Be kind. Tell
Answer
the
it,
truth.
answer it, Jenny.
Tell the truth.
Answer it.
The answer is
there has been training.
Again,
Education. There needs to be more. Yes. Yes.
There has been training. We verified this a couple times with a security person in this building. It's unclear whether what he related to us in last week is his recollection of policy, or is a clear statement of CenWest's policy. It doesn't really matter, because in the case of this guy, he said is correct, and he would take those steps. And as Elise referenced, it's very heavily tilted towards getting supervision on site before a run-of security person takes any action, and that's really unacceptable. So these are all things that we need clarity on. We need to be educated on how we're being protected, and CenWest needs to hear from us that we want to be able to do better and be involved and not rely solely on their security people, which is apparently their point of view right now.
The intent of having these in the public would be that, yes, it makes the most sense that staff on site know how to utilize all of the equipment. Whether, again, it's the fire extinguisher, whatever the equipment is, or the device. Yes, that's the intent, that staff get trained on it. But policy or not, if someone's not comfortable getting a fire extinguisher as an employee and utilizing it, that's that person's choice, right? They are not a firefighter. They're not employed as the firefighter, policy or not. Now, staffs don't know what level staff, don't know if it's 100% of the staff is trained on using these devices. And yes, it might be management or the supervisors. But they're also there for the public, and I can't like overstate that enough. It's a public access system. They're there in the airports, they're there in government buildings, they're there at the parks, they're there at the schools. You've probably heard stories about parents or coaches that grab an AED or do compressions on someone because they're there first, or they're there, the right place, right time. They're not an employee of the school. They just knew what to do and they did the right thing. And that's what the public intuitively wants to do. So that's why all these features are here in the public for you all to utilize as well, if you're confident enough to do that. And you know what? If calling 911 is the only thing you're comfortable with doing, then you do that. And maybe you can coach or explain to somebody else some of the steps, or even just point to them where the AED is. But bottom line is, when you're just doing compressions, you don't have to worry about barrier devices. You don't have to worry about communicable diseases. That is also one of the benefits and beauties of just doing compressions. And doing it is not gonna hurt them. It's quite the opposite. Doing nothing can hurt them because you're not gonna know what's going on with them. And unless they sit up and they deliberately push you off of them and tell you to stop, get off me, or whatever choice words they use, you keep doing what you're doing. Push hard and fast in the center of the chest, get the AED on as soon as possible. That person.
Can I say something? You see this group that showed up here today? I'd like to see half of you show up at a Kabrua meeting and talk to these people and see if we can get some satisfaction out of them and see if we can get them to do something. Not that they don't.
They
Let me
passed the
finish.
buck.
Let me finish. Not that we get them not to show up at this meeting. I think that's a terrible thing they did. But show up at a Kabrua meeting. I'm asking you, please show up at a Kabrua meeting.
A week from Tuesday.
A week from Tuesday.
Second Tuesday of the month, right?
Yes. Thank you.
What time?
10 o'clock.
In this room.
In this room, they start promptly. I think we'd like to start to wrap this up. Stan, let's-
One final thing. What you say is a very valid point, okay? Dan has, and they passed the buck. Management, I have met with Judy Millington as a representative of the tennis club. They want no part of AEDs, okay? I'm telling you right now. And if you think that this is gonna be an easy mission, you're gonna show facts, it's an incredible challenge. It will be an incredible challenge because it's an insurance, they see it as an insurance liability. So we have to develop a strategy. We are the two of the most active groups on this premises is the pickleball and tennis club. And probably the third are the swimmers and people who take aerobics. Those are the three most active groups, I would think. And people that bike, but I'm not including everybody, I know that.
What about the fishing club?
Whatever. You will have we have to be the swelling, the groundswell, from the bottom up, because you will not get support, as you invited two people today. They refuse to show up. And so we must develop a strategy to counteract this inaction.
I think the meeting today is a very good start with that. We have quite a large group. I'm grateful and thankful that so many people showed up. And I think this is going to make a difference. And this will be the start of a process that will lead to these being much more available than they are now.
From your lips to God's ears.
What I like to do is the first step is have a protocol set up where if we're playing pickleball, we send a couple of members to get the AED here, then we don't have to deal with security, we can go right there and take the AED. There's gotta be some kind of protocol.
That wouldn't-
Otherwise they're gonna block you.
We need, as Elise said, we need to meet in a non-threatening way with the lay leadership and the professional leadership and convince them, show them the light, show them what's really at stake and how this really can be helpful. They need to be on our
So you're
side.
saying the club cannot buy its own AED?
Well, that's not necessarily true.
What about that issue?
They've resisted giving us permission to do that, but that's going to be very hard for them to enforce.
Excuse me, I would just like everybody to say how much we appreciate how you've illuminated this situation for us and how hopefully we could become more adept at being a helpful bystander. Thank you so very much for
It's my
coming.
pleasure.
It was wonderful.
And I'd like to second that, Elise. This has been a long time coming, and I think this is a great first step for us this year. Thank you so much for being here. Please, as you're, especially tennis people, as you're leaving, let's see if we can get a sheet of paper, and if you're interested in attending a class, get your name, in your guys' cases, get a information.
Just to close, it was absolutely my pleasure to come out here. I hope that it makes a difference in people's lives. These skills can double and even triple survival chances. It makes a true difference. Personally, I've gotten letters and cards stating as such how members or participants have actually saved their spouses' lives because they recognize the signs and symptoms of a heart attack or even stroke, because that's also part of my presentation as well, how to do a stroke assessment, which like a heart attack, the person is awake, but time is even more of the essence. And also how to help if there's an airway block too. So set aside 2 hours, Dan's gonna help coordinate, but I know without a doubt, it makes a difference, not just attending the presentations, but being able to be coached by our dispatchers. There's been teenagers who have saved their parents' lives. Bystander CPR, it's a thing, and it works, and we want to try to tell everyone. Seattle's the biggest push in the movement. They started back in the 70s, so much now if you fall asleep on a park bench in Seattle, someone walking by is probably going to start pushing on your chest. It's that out there. Like, it's just that popular of a movement. Okay, so once again, thank you, and I hope you all sign up to attend a class or two.
Thank you. And I'd be remiss without thanking Fred Hadley, who's right here, who has recorded this. It's live streamed today on your Facebook page,
Fred Hadley on Facebook.
and it will be shared to our the pickleball Facebook page, which is boca.pickleball.3. Is that the page? Yeah. 1 and 2 were taken. Okay, so it's boca.pickleball.3. And we'll continue to get the word out on that. And this should be a valuable tool in educating others, sharing the information that we got today with other people in our community. So again, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I'm going to turn the meeting back to Frank, and we're going to continue our business.
Just one more word on this. If and when you go to a Kabrua meeting, they give you 2 minutes at the end of the meeting to say something. And I want you to get up there and say, I'm a pickleball player. And we feel whatever you're gonna say, tell them.
You don't want the rest
Because numbers count. In elections, numbers count, and they gotta realize that. The more people that are involved and want something done, it should get done. And that's what we gotta say.